If I was Volkanovski's sports psychologist, the old man Volk thing, I would have literally been like, I forbid you from doing that, Volkanovski. So you'll see right here when Volkanovski throws that left counter, instead of pulling his hand back, he grabs the back of Ilia's neck and he gets caught over the top and knocked out. One shot too many where they go, wow, this guy's way better than I thought. And they start doubting themselves, and you just watch that confidence kind of melt off him. And Ilia absolutely never showed that at all. He was a velociraptor in there. All right, so I'm shooting the intro after I already filmed and edited a 34-minute video that you just clicked on. You're going to love it. We talk a lot about Ilia Topuria, what makes him different from anybody else. We're going to talk a lot about Volkanovski, an incredible champion that could potentially become champion again. What comes next for him? And obviously, I'm sure that in the first intro, I will have said something about what I think his mindset was going into the fight, which was very, very flawed. And I'll tell you why. So settle in and enjoy the video. Love you guys. Now, being an MMA fan gives you the right to have any opinion that you want to have. And you can say whatever you want publicly. But the one opinion that you can't have right now and say publicly and still keep the respect of any hardcore MMA fan is that Alexander Volkanovski should just retire right now. I've seen that said one too many times for me not to at least address it in this video. And I'll give you all the reasons why you should not be saying that publicly in this video, because it's disrespectful. It's not true. And if anybody has earned the right to get a rematch without everybody chiming in his ear about how he's now Tony Ferguson, it's Alexander Volkanovski. Well, so a lot of stuff's happened since we last talked, right? We got a new 145-pound champion who, in my opinion, is going to stay that way for a very long time. He's 27 years old, and he's that good. And he's been doing jiu-jitsu since he was 4. This is what everyone talks about when they're talking about the new breed of MMA fighter. This is one of those guys who has literally been bred from birth to be a complete mixed martial artist. You mix talent, you mix hard work, and you mix a vision for, I'm going to be the greatest in the world, I'm never going to lose, and it all culminates, and that's what it looks like. Ilia Topuria. So it's gonna be very fun to watch. I mean, listen, I'm not saying he's never gonna lose, but he looks pretty formidable, because Volkanovski looked good last night, you know? But what I want to talk about in this video, I have so many topics to cover today, and I'm just going to kind of knock them out one by one. I want to talk about Ilia Topuria and Volkanovski's fight, obviously, and then I want to talk about Volkanovski's mindset, because there's a lot more going on here than just, I don't know, there's a lot more going on in this Volkanovski story than I think 99% of people realize, unless you were one of the few people who watched my live stream day before yesterday. I covered some of this, but now after seeing the result, I can really cover this and add more layers to it, which is all having to do with his mindset. I'm not at all saying that he lost because of his mindset either. Ilia Topuria is incredible. He has no weaknesses. You could see in the octagon. I'm going to start right there, actually. You could see in the octagon, Volk was having a lot of success, man. He was landing a lot. He looked super fast. He looked super crisp. He looked like he was completely on point. As Din Thomas pointed out, he was backing up with his head up, and that's so scary looking, man. Ian Gary does it too. A lot of guys do that who are incredible strikers who get in and out very, very quickly, and they keep their head up. It's not bad technique. They're doing it. They're doing it intentionally. It's not like it's not like a hobbyist at the boxing club. And you throw this. Remember to put it right here. It's an intentional way of approaching striking, because they want to be able to see as well as possible when they throw counters. If they're here, you cannot see as well. Bottom line, from here and you're looking up, you're more protected, but you can't see as well. They do it like that. They're prioritizing sight over top, covered up defense. And if you prioritize your safety over other things, you should subscribe to this channel and like this video. Because if you don't, I'm going to give Sean Strickland your address and tell him that you're an influencer. But it's scary as hell when they're fighting guys like Topuria, because, it's a game of millimeters, here, and, the shot lands, but it doesn't really land because you're just barely out of the way. It's literally, you're talking millimeters that are the difference between a perfectly slipped punch a punch that, you know, lands but not really because you rolled it pretty well, and you're literally waking up in an ambulance, you know. But aside from that, and that's his style anyway, he looked great, and he was landing often, and I was wondering if Ilia was going to get discouraged, you know, because I don't, you know, you could just see that Volkanovski was on point, and Ilia did not look. You could tell that doubt never even entered his mind at all. That's what I'm always looking for in situations like that. Guy comes in really confident, you know, and they get in there. They've got that kind of hysterical, delusional confidence that a lot of guys have had, and which I've talked about on the channel a million times, which is very powerful and simultaneously extremely dangerous. Because if you have that hysterical confidence and then one fight doesn't go your way, you know, like that kind of delusional, I'm going to be the greatest in the world, I'm never going to lose, yada, yada, and then you do. Darren Till is my absolute pinnacle example of that. He is exactly what that was. All the talent in the world, and had that delusional confidence. And I'm not even saying delusional as a negative. I'm just saying it is elevated to a this is my destiny level. As soon as someone genuinely believes that they are destined for greatness of this caliber, they're never going to lose, or they're whatever, the higher the aspirations, the more devastating it'll be to their psyche if something happens that's irreversible and breaks that narrative, you know? That's why it's so dangerous, so powerful on the way up. But like, oh, oops, I didn't slip a punch quite far enough. I got caught once in a fight, knocked unconscious. And they know the game well enough to know this is what this knockout means for my career. And it starts to threaten that you could ever end up where you think you're going to go, and then you lose another fight. So now you lost 2 in a row, and it just shatters it. And now you don't know how to rebuild confidence because it was based on this destiny thing that you were not even necessarily in control of. That's the problem with the destiny thing. Destiny, you are not in control of. You are not in control of destiny, right? The hard work, guys, plus focused mental acuity where you're visualizing exactly what you want, and then you also work hard, but you keep yourself in the driver's seat. You know, that's honestly what the key is. Don't ever take yourself out of the driver's seat, because that'll just shatter your worldview. But Ilia Topuria, he had that like, I'm never going to lose thing, and then he gets in there, and I'm like, he starts getting touched. I'm looking for that look in a guy's face, which is like, holy shit, like maybe I could actually lose this fight. You know, this guy's much better than I thought, or he hit me much harder. I've seen that look in a million fighters who came in super, super confident, and they get to, there's just like one shot too many where they go, wow, this guy's way better than I thought, and they start doubting themselves, and you just watch that confidence kind of melt off them, you know, before they get beat. And Ilia absolutely never showed that at all. Like he was a velociraptor in there. And I mean, I'm telling you, like I should have filmed us watching that fight, because with Gabriel, I said, I mean, I just had him pegged completely while I was watching it. All throughout the first round, I'm like, I'm telling you, he's going to knock Volkanovski out. I know Volkanovski looks good right now, but just look, you can tell when a guy is stalking prey. And they always say, oh, you know, he's stalking his prey when they're cutting off the, you know, the octagon and all that stuff. But I'm talking about when you could see like blind confidence, where the guy is just hunting. Like he's hunting, and he's like, I'm going to knock you out. It's just a matter of when. And it's not that often when someone looks like that, but Ilia, 100%. His body language throughout that whole thing was, he knew he was going to knock Volkanovski out. And yeah, it was very impressive. The mistake that Volkanovski made was, well, obviously, if you're controlling distance to avoid strikes, you got to make sure that you don't back up into the fence, obviously. But what he did was he had his hand out, and he was using it to measure Topuria. So he actually had his hand almost kind of behind his neck as like a measurement, where he's saying, you know, he's like, I can control him from here. And so Topuria just threw that hook right over his extended arm, which we're going to watch right now, actually. And since we're right here, if you watch this after Topuria knocked him out, you see that he comes back with the left hook. This is exactly what I was talking about when I was talking about him throwing those multiple hooks in the pocket. Every time I said that's where Topuria could be knocked out, but you have to sit in the pocket and trade with him, which is super dangerous. This is exactly what I'm talking about. See that right hook, left hook. Now, if you wanted to take advantage of that right there, you would need to game plan to put yourself against the fence. He always does it when his opponent is against the fence. And you would need to get low like Mike Tyson, and you would need to slip underneath that first right, and then you would need to be coming back with the hook right afterwards, so where he lands his chin directly on it when he comes back with the other one. It's a small window, but it's there. You know, you'd be risking everything to get it done. But if you're sitting on him knowing that he's going to do that, so you're planning it, it's not going to catch you off guard. That is where he's vulnerable to get knocked out. All right, so I'm taking volunteers. Who wants to go jump in there and try that technique against Ilia Topuria going 100%? It'll work, though, if someone times it right. This. That's it. You just have to time it perfect. You have to find your spot in between. When he throws the thing, you know he's coming back with the other one. And that will work. But it's scary. But anyway, so let's talk about Volkanovski, because that is actually the purpose of this video. So here's the thing, right? I've talked about this a million times on the channel, and I feel like I always have to preface it with that because some of it's gonna sound very redundant to people who watch my channel a lot. But the experience that a fighter has in their life as the life of a human, if they are a professional prize fighter, especially when they reach heights like Volkanovski or other guys who are big names in the UFC, they obviously love their life. They love what they do. They love it. And not just what they do, but what it gives them as an identity, you know? Like what is cooler than being a person that everyone knows is so dangerous that they will constantly make jokes about how, if someone talks about any kind of violent altercation, even near them, you know, in a social situation, it's like they always have to just be like, I guess we could put you on it. Ha ha ha. You know, like it's just this underlying like layer of you're the most dangerous motherfucker in the world. I mean, being famous for that is pretty fucking cool for a dude. You know what I mean? And also, you know, they're a professional athlete making money, doing the whole thing. And simultaneously, and I can't think of many other professions where this is the case, you love what you do more than anything. It's all you've ever done. And at the exact same time, you know for sure that you are not going to be able to do it past a certain age, right? Like that's it for you. You love your life. Well, guess what? Your life has to be something completely different now. And you have not prepared for that at all. Like, and when I say prepared, I'm saying you have not developed any other skills that a 40-year-old man would have to go into the workforce aside from maybe law enforcement, right? Like, you know, I know, oh my God, the guy who beat Johnny Hendricks. Jesus, man. Name recall. What is wrong with me? But Johnny Hendricks is police now. You know, I would imagine he's probably very good at his job. But you know, what else? What other skills do you develop as a professional prize fighter where you're like, okay, well, when I'm 42, this is what I'll do. You know what I mean? Like I'll go do that. Because if they haven't banked enough money to retire, then they're all going to have to do something. You know, they're all gonna have to do something. And I know people are like, oh, they should just open a martial arts academy. Well, maybe they don't want to do that. You know, A, maybe they don't want to do that. B, maybe it's not a viable option for them for other reasons. It's like, even if you do open a martial arts academy, even if you do that, it is still an absolutely enormous adjustment from what they were doing before to what they're doing now, both from an identity standpoint and from just their life experience. You know, I think opening a school is actually kind of the closest that you can get to continuing to live pretty much the same life. But, you know, I know a few guys who are active, big name UFC fighters, and I've asked them, you know, if they would want to coach after their career, and they said no. Like, they said no. Now, I do, just in fairness, I asked 2 guys. If they want to talk about it, they can. And they both said the same thing. They both said no. And then when I said, what if you were coaching a person who was on a title run? And they were like, okay, yeah, no, I would want to do that. So as soon as you put into the equation, the person you're coaching is chasing the belt and is like a legit contender, then they're in. And I think that's very telling, dude, because they both said the same thing. They said they don't want to, but if it's a contender, that's a completely different ballgame. And I think it's pretty understandable, because what are they doing during their career? They're chasing the title. Honestly, all of that is beside the point. The point I'm trying to make here is that there's a sword of Damocles hanging over their head throughout their entire career. And that is that this is going to end and I'm going to have to do something else. And to really demonstrate the feeling that I personally know what this is like. Okay. That's why I empathize with these guys so much. It's like, I can actually put it in perspective for everyone. If you think about a person from a Western country's life experience, and you think about how they go day to day and kind of survive life. Life is hard, man. For most people, life is not easy. There's even when it looks easy from the outside, there's a lot of stuff that's really tough in life. People who just objectively have it tough, which is the majority of people, I personally think that what keeps them going is the possibility that things will be better in the future, right? Like, things will be better. Okay, yeah, I'm doing this now, but in the future, this is what I should be able to do if things go my way or whatever. Like, there is a world where things get not just better, but much better, right? And that's important to think about when it comes to the fighter's journey, because if normal person sets a goal and they achieve that goal, it depends on, like, the importance of achieving the goal is relative. Because let's say, like, someone likes to run and they're like, I am going to go and run in the Boston Marathon. I'm going to train my ass off. I've never even done a marathon, but I'm going to run in the Boston Marathon. I'm going to get in the top 10%. It's like, all right, cool. And I'm not minimizing that. That's gangster as fuck. But if you successfully run the Boston Marathon and you come in fucking 100th or whatever, and you're like, yes, I did it. Okay, cool. You did that for yourself. And now you go back to the same life that you had, maybe with a new outlook on taking on challenges, but achieving that goal has not changed your life at all. There are different types of goals that are completely different than that, where you achieve the goal, it completely changes your life, both financially or maybe from a fame perspective, from the sector that it puts you in, the connections that you're going to have, and it makes your life and the life of your family totally different, right? The UFC fighters, that's the life that they have been living up until this point. And when you take it away, it's the same as basically just the regular folks who are going through life, having a hard time trying to find a way to kind of keep their mental in place so they can just get through life. What do you think happens the moment that they realize that the story they've been telling themselves about what could happen in the future, someone comes from the future and they're like, hey, just FYI, it never gets better than this. This is your life. As a matter of fact, it gets worse. So this story you're telling yourself that you're going to do this, this, and this, that's not going to happen. And I mean, like, there's nothing you could do. There's no like action you can take. It's not going to work. Okay. It's not going to work for you. You don't have the talent, or you're not going to get whatever. But I'm talking about, you take that hope away. Like, you take away the hope that they experience. That is a fucking horrendous place to be. And I know this from firsthand experience. Okay? Like, I know this. I know exactly what it's like to chase a dream that is as big as winning the UFC title. And I know what it's like to lose it and then think that the rest of your life is completely hopeless. I have experienced that firsthand, 100%. And if you doubt that, you can go on my fucking channel and or just go search Jesse on Fire Startup. You can watch the reality show that the Undercover Boss, the same people that produced Undercover Boss, produced the documentary about me building my startup, that Esquire Network picked up. And had that gone to series, okay, like, well, you know what? My hypothesis was, or I guess what I believed to be true 100%, I have no way of knowing now, but what I absolutely believed to be true is that had the show gotten picked up by Esquire full time and they would have taken it to series and not the fucking network gone out of business, and then so we lost all of it, we would be DraftKings right now. What I was building would be I had a better product, and I was going to have a cable television show following me around doing my journey. Watch that show. Go watch Jesse on Fire Startup and tell me if you think the show would have been successful. I've literally, people who despise me watch that show and they're like, how the fuck did these guys not pick this up? I'm like, they're fucking retards. If I told you the shows that they did instead, you would understand why they ran out of money and then couldn't do our show. But nonetheless, like, I believed that my life would be, I was going to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars because it doesn't matter. That's what I believed. And not only did we not get the show, I had to sell the company. And when I sold the company, all the money that I made was in stock. And then that went to zero when it's neither here nor there. I lost it. That's all that matters. I lost it. Right. And I lost it in a way where that industry disappeared to where I had no transferable skills, where I could take the fact that I had been a growing, successful company CEO for the last 6 years and go do anything with it. Like, okay, so what can I do with it? The industry's gone. Like, there is no industry there. So all of a sudden I'm, in a house in a state that I don't know anyone, with my family of two kids. My wife's 5.5 months pregnant. And I find myself unemployed with no job prospects, absolutely no options whatsoever, no transferable skills at an age where all of my peers who I would have considered to be doing dog shit work were fucking destroying me in life by comparison. And I couldn't see a way to make it better. I couldn't see it. I couldn't, there was no line of sight to something that I could start working towards. It was just pure hopeless. That the lowest that you can be, dude, with the responsibility of a wife that didn't work and fucking 2 kids and another one coming at the worst time of my life. So I know what that feeling is, dude. Sheer hopelessness. It's heavy, doesn't even cover it, dude. Like, I would wake up and I would feel like there was like someone had parked their truck on my chest. Like, all I wanted to do was just go back to sleep. Like, I'm just going to try to sleep through this day. It hurt that much, dude. To care about something as much as I did for that, and then to go to that place, that's why these guys freak out, man. That's why these fighters freak out. When they get to where they're whatever age, where the reality is that they know for sure that this ride is coming to an end very soon. Within, as soon as you start talking 2-3 years, where it's like, in 3 years, this is over. When you're 35 years old, 3 years is not a long time. When you're like, I remember when I was in college, I was 19 or whatever. I thought I was like never going to get out of college. Like, I'm like, I've got 3 more years in this place. I'm going to be, that's forever. I'll never get out of here. Like, that's a long period of time. Now, that's why I started doing jiu-jitsu. Honestly, one of the reasons, but like, that's why I committed to it. It's because I'm like, all right, so if I train constantly, I get my black belt in 9 years. I'm like, I could do fucking 9 years. That's easy. Like, 9 years does like all this, when I'm younger, it's like 9 fucking years. That's never, the older that you get, the less a year. It's like, this doesn't sound like a lot of time anymore. And so at 35, 2 years sounds like nothing. And you're like, oh, this is all going to end. If I'm not a UFC fighter, who the fuck am I? You know what I mean? What am I going to do? Who am I if I'm not this? And what gets me through the day? That's the point. Like, what gets me through the day if I'm not focused on fighting and I have no goals to achieve? And the answer is, you don't know, dude. Like, I mean, I assume that a lot of guys will, find a way to kind of like cope, and then they'll readjust their viewpoint on the world, and they'll, settle in. You know what I mean? Like, they'll settle in and they'll be fine. Volkanovski will be fucking fine, dude. He'll be fine. But there is going to be a very extremely, extremely rough transition period. I mean, not for, some people kind of cruise into retirement, but I'm telling you, ask any retired fighter, 95% of you will tell you, 95% of them, if they're honest, will tell you that the transition was devastating to their psyche. Fucking devastating. And it'll take a while before they settle in. And so when you know that fear is on the other side of the end of your career, and you have this event in front of you, which is like, hey, go fight this fucking serial killer who's 27. He's got his whole life ahead of him. He's got 10 fucking years to do this, and make sure he doesn't land any punches on you, because if he does, then that thing, the thing that the thing you're most afraid of in the entire fucking world, your number one fear on earth, that thing? Well, if you make a mistake tonight, that is your tomorrow. That's not 2 years from now. That's not 3 years from now. That shit's fucking tomorrow if you make a mistake in this fight. Okay? That doesn't exist for guys who are 27 years old, 30 years old, 32 years old. The guys that get to 35, that's why that's why they start to, I genuinely believe that at 35, I don't think it's their body in lots of cases. In lots of cases, I do not think that it's actually them getting slower or them getting, a little bit more. I mean, obviously there are exceptions to the rule. Guys who have taken a bunch of damage. I honestly believe that at least half or more of people where you start to see a slide in their career when they hit 35 is because of that. It's because they know that they've internalized the fear of what happens after their career. And all of a sudden, instead of looking forward and being excited about what they're going to do in the fight game, they're fighting from a position of sheer fucking terror. Terror you couldn't even imagine if you can't understand what I'm talking about. Like if you can't grasp what I'm talking about, what it means to have your entire identity taken from you, and or the fear of everything that you love being taken from you, and knowing that on the other side of that is absolute fucking hopelessness. You know it in your heart that that's what it's going to be like. It's the biggest fear on earth. Now, is that a good place to go into an athletic one-on-one competition with? That if I lose, worst case scenario of all time, my number one fear comes true? Because that's where Volk is. I'm telling you, dude. And not just him, everyone. That's why when he fucking did the old man Volk thing, I was like, God, that is such a bad call, dude. That is such a bad call. That is such a fucking bad call. If I was a sports psychologist, I would have been like, if he asked me that, I'd have been like, I have an idea. How about you just fucking chop your left arm off instead? Literally, if I was Volkanovski's sports psychologist and he came into me and was like, look, what I'm thinking about doing is really playing into this, I'm 35 years old thing and doing an old man thing. And I'm like, okay, but we've discussed this. The fact that you're 35 is the source of all of the catastrophe that's going on in your brain. All the stuff we're working on right now where you're suddenly having, anxiety and panic attacks every day is because you realize that the end of your career is coming up. That's where this is actually being sourced from. So they want to ask you about, hey, you're 35, whatever, and you think that the right play is to dress up like an old man and try to make a joke of it. This is the worst idea of all time. You are not slower. You have not lost a step. The only reason you're going to perform at a lower level is if you tell yourself that you're fucking older. You have not aged like that. That's not accurate. We've seen you fight. You move exactly the same. The only way that you perform at a lower level is if you start telling yourself that you're old. Get that shit the fuck out of your head, man. Get that shit the fuck out of your head. Making it a joke, does anybody not understand how manifesting works? Okay, if you believe this outcome will be the case, with no doubts, and you do the work, I'm telling you, you have such a high, ratio of success. If you go into a thing and you're like, okay, perfect example. If you go into to try to make a 6-foot putt in golf, okay, and all you look at it, you see the line, and you're like, that's how it goes in, and all you do is visualize the ball going into the hole, and you just see it, ball in hole, ball in hole, ball in hole. Wow, that hole is fucking huge. This ball is really small. You hit the putt, it goes in every time. Fucking every single time. 100% of the time you will make that putt. Absolutely every time. If you go into the putt and you go, don't miss this, don't miss this, don't miss this, don't miss this. I better not miss this. Making a joke about this, better not miss this. You miss it every time. Okay, you're not telling the universe like, oh, don't miss. If you're saying miss, you are fucking screaming that into your mental. Golf, if you visualize the shot you want to hit, it's like magic. Don't think about any other thing. Nothing. Do not think about your swing. Don't think about your fucking takeaway. Nothing. If you only visualize your shot all the way through your swing, you will hit that shot fucking every time. It doesn't even make sense. I always forget to do it, but every time I remember to do it, I hit the exact shot that I'm visualizing. It's uncanny. The old man Volk thing, I would have literally been like, I fucking forbid you from doing that, Volkanovski. I forbid you from doing that. It's the worst possible thing you could do for your mental game. You're making a joke of something that is your biggest fear on earth. Like that you are fucking paralyzed by the fear of the end of your career right now. You are definitely not doing a bit about how you're super old. No. All you're doing is externalizing this thing that is eating you alive from the inside. Do not do that. Would have been my suggestion. But, listen, and listen, like just to add on to that, right? You saw, obviously, as he gets up and realizes he lost, how he's devastated, right? And he brushed himself off, came off very, very well, dude. Went into the press conference and I thought did very, very well, But if you understand what you're looking at, which I do, okay, he immediately started talking about the rematch. Like that's all he was talking about. Rematch. He asked if there was a fucking date for the Spain card. Okay. He was like, is there a date? He's like, do we have a date yet for the Spain card? Because the rematch is going to be great. The rematch is literally the fucking Band-Aid over the axe wound of his psyche right now. It's like, okay, well, we still have the rematch. Like that is the only thing holding that guy together right now is the fact that he knows he's going to get another shot at him, which is understandable. I'm not saying something that this is like a weakness of Volkanovski's at all. Not whatsoever. I'm saying anyone who's wired like us in his exact situation, that would be the case. The thing that's going to hold you together is it's not over. I'm going to get to rematch him and I can take back what's mine. But if he does get the rematch, which he should, fucking get the idea that you're old the fuck out of your head. You are not old, dude. You're not old. Oh, no one makes it past 38. Fucking Jesus, man. Get that shit out of your fucking head. Don't think about that because it's not even fucking true for him, dude. He's a freak athlete. He could do this forever. Well, not forever, but you know what I mean. He could do this for a long time. And we don't have USADA anymore, so I'm just kidding. But honestly, get that shit. Volkanovski, I'm a fucking massive fan of yours, dude. I think you and I would be very good buddies, dude. If we were at the same gym or had any kind of like close interaction, we would be really good friends. And I'm telling you, take it like I'm telling you as a friend, you are not slowing down. You're not fucking old. Those ideas are not accurate. You move exactly like you did 2 years ago in your prime. The only thing that's different is you are thinking about the end of your career. Stop it, dude. He brought it up in he brought it up in an interview too. He literally said it in an interview. He's like, I've been thinking, like I'm in my prime, but like how long is my prime? I recognize it because it's exactly what would happen to me for sure. The way it happened for me was not that at all. I thought we were going all the way and it was like, incremental fucking bad beats that took me from, oh, I'm going to be a world famous billionaire, just piece by piece down to, never mind, I'm filing bankruptcy. Okay. That was my experience, was a slow descension from top of the mountain to bottom of the fucking barrel, lowest a person can be. I never had a moment where I knew that this was going to be the case and it was like bearing down on me from a timeline perspective. There's one incident where my world completely exploded in one moment in one day that I'm not going to get into, but fucking A, man. I could tell you where dust sat on the desk in that moment. It's like it burned itself into my psyche in a way that I could never describe. I've never had such a strong, devastating, emotional like thing happen to where I actually could feel something hitting my face, like boom, 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 like that. It's the only time ever where just me sitting and hearing someone say something to me, boom, boom, boom. I like it, man. And I would imagine that it's probably very similar to what it feels like the second that like it sinks in when a person loses a fight that is the end of their career, which is not the case for Volkanovski. Anyway, I've been talking long enough. Love you guys. I got a lot more videos to do.